Today I'm going to talk a little bit about something I promised you a few months ago I was going to make a video about. This is the list of the things I love about China. There are still some things that I don't like or don't enjoy too much. It's about the few things I don't like too much about living here in China. It's a very interesting topic that might create some controversy, but I think it's fair to do it because I told you guys I was going to do that, because a few months ago I also made a video talking about my favorite things or the great things about living here in China. So this is the other part of that video. I just want to clarify something. These few things I'm going to mention in this video are not the kind of things that makes someone's lives miserable, but might bother you sometimes depending on the place where you are or the situation. So this is not a video to create critics of China by any means. It's just a video to express these kind of feelings. I think when you live in a place, you're totally free to express the things you like and the things you don't like. That's totally acceptable. Okay, number one, it's related to a little bit to the behavior of not everyone, but a big part of the people. It bothers me a lot when you go into the subway, you try to board a train, and people don't let you leave the train or the subway before they enter. So there are a lot of announcements all around train stations, subway stations, and inside the subway that is asking people to please wait. So people disembark first before you board a train, but they seem not to understand, don't pay attention too much to that. So here the norm, what usually happens is that people just go in the train as soon as they open the doors. So people who wants to disembark needs to push a little bit to leave. And that is a big problem because depending on the time of the day, some stations and some places in some cities in China are super crowded. So when you're trying to leave and then a lot of people trying to enter at the same time, that creates a problem. The same with elevators. I don't really get here, but people wants to fill the elevator until they ring the alarm that is it reached the highest weight that they can lift or they can take. If you care too much about personal space here in China, you might have some issues because people here do not have that sense of personal space as we do in the West. The second thing I don't like too much is smoking. I am a social smoker, but I think I know which places I can smoke and which places I can't. But people here seem to be smoking everywhere all the time, no matter what, if it's outdoors or indoors.
你好，这里是公共场所，不能吸烟的。那边写着呢。
That is less common in big cities, but if you travel to a small town, you will go to a restaurant, a local one, and people will be smoking indoors. Same happens in like nightclubs and bars. That's pretty common. So when you're leaving at night after a party or after a few drinks, you'll be all smelly, like your clothes will be super stinky, smelling like cigarettes. I don't like that too much. The third thing on my list, it refers to the noise and the sounds everywhere. People seem to use the speaker on their phones like all the time to watch a video, to have a phone call. They use a speaker. Most of the time I ask people to please lower it down, and 99% of the times they are willing to do that because they understand that it's bothering other people. And actually in subways it's forbidden, so if the security guard sees you or hears you using your speakerphone, he might approach to you and ask you to lower down the volume, which is good. But everywhere else, in public spaces, hotels, in shopping malls, you're like next to somebody in a restaurant, they're using their speaker to watch a video, and that's annoying, very annoying. And also sounds like loud announcements are very common. Of course, it's everywhere. Like if you're in an airport, you will hear announcements. But here, it's like 5 times louder than a regular airport. So if you're in an airport, it's very, very loud, these announcements. Also, like in public parks, they have these speakers to make this announcement like very, very loud. I don't know if my ear is too sensitive or I appreciate silence too much, but that is everywhere. And that happens in the same way in cities and small towns. That's everywhere. Number 4, the fact that you have to use VPN to access Western social media. Chinese people don't need it because they use their own social platforms. But for us as foreigners living here, we need to count with a paid VPN to enjoy a good connection and a good speed. And I also like, of course, to have access to like Google services, YouTube, which is the platform you're probably watching this video through, Instagram, Facebook. All these services are blocked in China, so you need to purchase a VPN. I usually pay like 150 US dollars, 180 US dollars annually for my VPN. Sometimes I need to pay 2 depending if I need to use it on my phone or my computer, because of course I'm a content creator, so I need these good speeds to upload and download some information from the web. So that's something, if you're planning to come to China, you might know. Do download a good VPN in advance. Okay, I think that it's also important to say a couple things that I had in mind and I want also to share in this video. For me, as a foreigner, as an expat who has been in China for several years, I am totally used to this kind of things. After so many years, you kind of learned to embrace the local culture, even with the kind of things that you didn't enjoy that much in the beginning. After a while, they're not that important. Small things that it's like, it's part of the daily life sometimes, and there's not much you can do to change, actually. And the second thing is also even more important. China is a constantly changing society. So these kind of things are very common more in small towns, small places. If you have the chance to live in a big city, you probably will see less of this. Like, for example, you've heard before, like, it's very common to see people speeding everywhere here in China, but I live in Shenzhen, which is a very modern city, and I've had the chance to go to a lot of huge metropolises like Chongqing or Chengdu, Hangzhou, Beijing. You don't see that often, people speeding everywhere. So I think that is part of the past already, and it's a good thing that the Chinese society is becoming more educated, more civilized. Number 5, food or Western food. After all these years, I've learned to appreciate and love more and more Chinese food, which is fine because that's the food that you will find mostly everywhere. But sometimes you miss Western flavors or good Western food. There are not many options. There are more than before, but still, it's still somehow limited, at least the good quality ones. Of course, as I say, there are more and more options throughout the time. Like lately, you can find some supermarkets that offer some ingredients or some food and some dishes. But here in China seems to be like a little bit more expensive and pricier than any other country in the world. So for example, cheese, that's something I love a lot. If you want to buy like good quality cheese from a supermarket, it's like 3 times, 4 times more expensive than the price you might find at home. Number 6, squat toilets or squatting toilets. That also has changed. But for me, for example, I need to travel a lot for my work, and I need to visit sometimes remote areas, small towns, or in the rural areas. Mostly you will find squatting toilets. Sometimes I have no choice, you have to use it, but if you ask me, I would rather have a regular toilet as we do in the West. But here, squatting toilets are super popular, and most of Chinese people prefer to use that kind of toilets. But now, like international or big hotels, shopping malls, you find more like regular toilets, or probably they have like half and half. At least you have the option. Also, a friend told me that for some reason, Chinese people or Asian people, the way their body is configured, I mean, it's not that different, but they can squat in an easier way than Westerners. So, I don't know, but at least for Asian people or for Chinese people, it's easier to squat. So some people even cannot do that. So it's very, very uncomfortable to do that position to do your business. So I don't really know much about it. If you guys know that information, I would appreciate if you can let me know in the comments section, because I'm really curious about this squatting position for going to the toilet. The next thing, drivers in China. I could spend a whole video talking about this topic because this is a huge issue. Actually, I drive here in China. I have my car here and I usually drive. People here drive horribly. I mean, not everybody, but I will say the big majority, like bus drivers, taxi drivers are the worst. Share riding apps drivers like Didi, and actually when I'm driving I need to like change my mindset and try to be as patient as possible, because car culture in China is kind of new. Actually, it's not being present in the society for decades like in Europe or in America. So I would say like most of the people right now are driving cars for the first time and not for a long time, so that makes them kind of unfamiliar with many of the rules of driving, even though the driving test in China is not easy to pass, but that's still the reality on the street. I can actually make a whole video about driving here in China, telling the pros and the cons and how is the driving culture in China. If you want to watch and see that video, let me know in the comments. I can make that for you guys and tell you about my experience of driving here in China. Okay, the next thing is not too much about someone's preferences, but I think it's a matter of safety, and it's somehow related to the previous one, the way people drive here. In small spaces or in places where they should not, they speed up a lot or they drive too fast. For instance, a parking lot where there are people walking, there are kids around, they don't really take the caution to slow down the speed. They just go really fast, and I don't really get why or how somebody could just not take the the precaution to be careful and look around and just slow down. It's a parking lot, for God's sake. And actually a lot of accidents have happened before here in China because of people they're not careful enough to slow down and drive carefully around a parking lot. And also they don't give way to pedestrians. Here it is not common. If you're on the street, you want to cross the street, don't expect cars to slow down or stop to give the way to people who are walking. They'll just keep walking. You need to wait until there's no car coming so you can cross the street. The next thing I don't really like too much here is some places they have salespeople that are a little bit annoying. They don't give up until you buy something from them.
给我买东西吗？给我买东西！不要，不要，让我走了。确定不买东西吗？有没有买东西？没有吗？
I mean, maybe with foreigners it's not that much if you pretend you don't speak Chinese or just like walking, but sometimes they just go and follow you until you buy something there, or they just like try the few words they know in English, like hello, 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 and they follow you like for a few minutes until you buy something for them. Depending on where you are also, it's like mostly like in the big markets. In Shenzhen there are a few places like this where you go and they just like insist a lot. Okay, the other thing and the last thing that I don't enjoy too much about living here is related to the price of things. Some products, they have fixed price, like if you go to restaurants, the dish will have in the menu the price already. But for example, if you want to buy like a car, sometimes if you want to rent a place, they don't have fixed price, so they expect you to negotiate and bargain for the price. I don't really know and I don't really enjoy the process of bargaining, so I really prefer like if you go to a place, they have the list of prices for the things. Right? For example, I bought a car recently and there is a fixed price, but they always tell you, okay, this is the price, but it's open to negotiation. So that means that's not the real or final price. That means they can lower down depending on your skills to ask them to lower down the price. But I don't know how it works. I just prefer like going, okay, this is the price, because the cars has different features and you have different like levels. If you want a pro or you want with like additional things in the car, it will be more expensive like everywhere. But there's not fixed price. There's always space to bargain and request for like discounts. And the same in some shops, they don't have a price. They just, depending on how you look like, if you're a foreigner in some places, they want to charge like twice or 3 times of the price because they think you're rich. Okay, my friends, this is the list of a few things that I don't enjoy that much about living here in China. As I said, there's just a few things that don't really change the way I feel towards China at all. I still love this country so much, to be honest. I made a previous video telling and sharing the reasons why I like China so much. I will share the link here in the description of the video so you can take a look if you haven't yet. Also, I would like to know your perspective if you've ever been to China, if you'd like to come here, if these video somehow helped you a little bit to have a better understanding of China. I hope it doesn't help to create a negative image of China. I'm trying to be just a little bit more realistic, and as I said in the beginning, I think it's totally fair also to share the things that you don't enjoy that much. It doesn't mean you don't like a country or a society. For me, it's totally the opposite. I have a huge affection and a huge connection with China and Chinese people. It's just a few small things that I think throughout the time they will improve more and more. I think new generations are more open to better behavior in general. So small things are happening in China and for the good of the people. And I think in probably a few more years, these things I just mentioned will be less and less significant. So again, let me know what you think about these things I just mentioned in the video. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Oh, I forgot. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment in the video. That helps a lot video creators like me who make content about anything. So don't forget to do that. Thank you. Bye bye. Folks, I'm gonna be wandering around nice and beautiful places here in China and documenting about it. I will also be Instagramming my day-to-day and my trips in this awesome country. Feel free to follow me and leave your comments and impression over there about life in China. I will leave the link to my account in the description down below. Remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell button so you don't miss any of my follow-up stories about what's going on in this part of the world. If you think there might be someone else interested in these kind of videos, please consider sharing. My name is Rafael, thanks for watching, and stay safe until next time.